talking about today?
Oh my God. So,
I'm gonna go
a
on
lot
Twitter.
of people I don't know, at least some, like a non-zero sum of people in chat follow me on Twitter, so they probably already saw this. But if anyone saw my video responding to the carnivore PhD, Dr. Sarah Zaldivar, that Ellie re-uploaded to her channel, in that video, I criticized an RD, a registered dietitian, called Diana Rodgers, because the way she presents science is just like so laughable. And I got into a Twitter beef with her that resulted in her blocking me and blocking Danny and blocking Simon Hill and blocking Matt Medor and blocking Danny on Instagram. It was like a whole thing. It was so funny.
So, wow, Diana, that's awesome. Now all of those 1,000+ people are learning from someone who, oh, because this has been deleted.
No, because she blocked me, so people can't see it if I quote retweet it.
Okay,
So
sorry,
yeah,
I'm confused by Twitter navigation.
it's
So,
okay.
do you remember what she said?
Oh yeah, she posted a screenshot about how her book Sacred Cow was #1 in vegan cooking, and it was like, haha, funny because it's not about vegan or cooking, and I don't like vegan, so like it's super funny. So I quote retweet. Oh, and it had 1,000+ reviews, so that's where the 1,000+ number is coming from.
Okay.
So that's what I said, and then if you go to the other thing, that's what she quote retweeted me with.
This is the universes or Amazon trying to tell them some truth. I certainly do not know how Sacred Cow is classified as vegan, but I find it hysterical. What?
And then I replied with a thread that I ratioed her on.
love this. Oh, you love ratioing the nonsense.
I love it, especially because she has like 20,000 followers. I don't even have 1,000, so it was like immensely satisfying in that respect as well.
Okay, I'm gonna be interspecies. What does that have to do with anything? No, my point was that the way you present science is either misleading or flat out wrong. Like when you cited the White and Hall study as evidence animal ag isn't bad for the environment. The same study that assumed we'd keep growing animal feed under a plants-only agricultural system and consequently would be feeding people 5,000 calories of mostly corn and grain, thereby inflating with GHG emissions, the GHG emissions rather. And then you went on a long thread. Or how about when you claim there's no difference in ACM between veggies and omnis when co-founders are adjusted for, and then cited a study which did show a difference, just not statistically significant, and which also showed a protective effect of the meat-free diets against incidence and or mortality from ischemic heart disease, minus 25%, and incidence from total cancer, minus 8%. Okay, and then you've got these. That is one scary... Jesus Christ, what is that?
I was just attaching the screenshots like her saying these things. And, obviously, I go more in depth into like when I talk about it in the video and stuff.
Yes,
but,
yes, and
yeah.
I can link that for anybody who has not seen that. Or how about when you cited Motet et al. As evidence that cattle can convert land unsuitable for crop production into food, the same study that defined a piece of land as being unsuitable for certain crop if it produced less than 25% of the maximum estimated yield, which doesn't account for a very simple fact that a small percentage of a large number is more impressive than a large percentage of a small number, and B, did not apply this same standard to cows. This person said when she claims she wants people to be strong, but a quick search for keywords on her profile shows that's not a concern in the slightest. There's a lot that's with her that just doesn't make much sense to me, okay? But maybe that's because I'm smooth-brained. Can you make sense of her? Because you're the smarty pants of these.
I feel like she's just a grifter. I feel like she either suspects or knows that she's not being honest in the way she goes about this, but at this point she's built up a platform of people that expect a certain thing of her, and to amend her views when new information is brought to light would be to compromise the support she has from those people, and also consequently compromising a certain portion of her income.
Yeah, and you don't say grifter lightly. In fact,
No.
you have a problem with people just kind of throwing around these terms. So when interspecies says stuff like this, the gloves are off. Okay, interspecies has had enough.
I mean, think about it like this. When I responded to her initially, and I was severely passive aggressive and rude in how I addressed her, and she didn't block me over that. What she blocked me over was my thread where I was able to pinpoint specific instances of her lying to her audience. That's what she got upset enough to block me over. And so
Mm-hmm.
when people do that, right, when people do that, it's hard to, I think, have a more charitable interpretation of their actions. And then and then also the whole thing with Danny as well, where he like tagged her and he was like, why'd you block Vegan Dominion? And she goes, I don't have time to interact with the vegans. And it's like, you don't have time to interact with the people you're criticizing.
Yeah, I know. It is. I was going to say it's very concerning when someone has made this. Like, they've got invested enough in it to write a book. You know, to like be. They've wanted to assert their opinion on this, yet they don't have enough time to, as you say, like engage with the people who are, you know, going to be against this. But yeah, here it is. Hey, sustainable dish. Just wondering why you decided to block Vegan Dominion rather than engage with her criticism. Just not worth my time arguing with the vegan. You do you and justify it how you like. Oh, that's a good philosophy. That's really good.
I also want to note that by arguing with the vegan, she means interacting with my ability to point out, again, specific instances of her lying about the science. So weird framing of what happened.
Very weird framing. And yeah, and as you said, this wouldn't even be that big of a deal if it weren't for the fact that she has a large platform, is actively creating and selling content, like her book and documentary, that disseminates information to large swaths of people. And yeah, she was recently on Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah, that's why it was going, because usually if there's just some like random Twitter weirdo, I'm not going to dedicate this much energy to like burying them or something like that. But in the case of Diana Rodgers, the reason why I was so gung-ho on like talking about this a lot is because when people rise to prominence on like this sort of basis, right, like lying about science and disseminating sort of misinformation and contributing to scientific illiteracy, that like that sort of thing, at the very least, I don't think they should be able to do that comfortably. I don't think that they should log on to Twitter and think that they can post things like this with absolutely no pushback. I don't think that me as like one person, or even me and my followers, are gonna make Diana Rodgers like see the light and like change her views. But at the very least,
be more
I think
scared to say it.
Like we can disembolden her a little bit, at least a little bit, and ruin her day.
Yeah. No, it's good to be. I've learned like hard lessons from that, like, because obviously you new vegan, or you just kind of like, you know, when I came into veganism, I didn't really understand, you know, the hierarchy of scientific evidence, or I didn't understand, like, you know, making empirical claims and things like that. I learned the hard way to be a bit more scared of the claims I made. Like, if I, like, couldn't back it up, I'd just be like, oh, shit, I shouldn't say that. Like, so it's actually good to kind of push back if someone makes a claim and see if they can actually engage with it. But, so I think that's probably better to do.
So if you scroll up, this is her asking someone to provide a logical critique of her book. It's the immediate tweet that one is responding to. So she was just arguing with this vegan.
Oh yeah, or you could read my book and actually have a logical critique of it instead of an emotional one, because there is no food system that is zero death. So you can be ignorant to that fact and the things that die for you to live, or you can take responsibility and support regenerative ag. And well, someone offered a logical critique of the things you've claimed and you blocked them. And it's really interesting as well, because the vegans typically like acknowledge, like, did this person even say that it's not sustainable either way? It sucks, but taste bud for all people's choices instead of morals. Nowhere like does this person say, oh, okay, well I have a life that entails zero deaths. Like nowhere's that even said anyway. And like, so she's kind of framing it like, oh yeah, the vegans need to come to terms with this fact because they claim otherwise. That is kind of what I'm extracting from that. And vegans acknowledge that. And you are someone who acknowledges that and would be more than willing to go through why, even with that acknowledgement, and, you know, obviously go through the data and how she's got it misconstrued. At the same time, you still be vegan. It's not an argument against veganism. So yeah.
And this is like, to me, this is sort of another example of, or another thing informing my position that she's probably a grifter, which is this idea that she pretends to be open to criticism, right? She's like, oh, offer a logical critique of my view. So she wants the social credit that comes with that, but then when you do it, she blocks you, right? So she wants the social credit that comes with being open-minded, open to the possibility of being wrong without the burden of actually having to amend her view when she is wrong. And blocking the people who can do that.
Oh man, I think you should just keep pushing with this, and I can be your inside knowledge. Because it obviously annoys her, so it might be worth pushing back again, because if it does say a lot. I mean, maybe it is the case that sometimes you're in a bad mood, you don't want to engage with people critiquing you on the internet. That's fully possible. But one of the connotations of this is that she isn't prepared or able to actually deal with a critique from, and this isn't to discredit you, but some random person on the internet that she's never met before who is actually quite clearly aware of, the data that they're talking about, aware of, a rebuttal. So it does look like that. It could, as I said, well be the case that maybe she's just having a bad day, but this seems to be happening quite often, and it especially seems to happen, hate to lump people together, but with the anti-vegan crowd, as soon as you hit them with the rebuttal, they scurry away. So
yeah, and this is a recurring issue, because a while ago she actually blocked Avi over, I think it was something similar. He because I remember he made a thread on her citing the study about cattle converting unsuitable lands into food or whatever. And on the thread he was like, don't expect Diana to engage with this criticism because she blocked me or something like that. So this is a recurring yeah. Okay. And then also I don't know if you know who Simon Hill is, but he's sort of in the nutrition sphere. He's vegan. And he responded to her. Oh, here, let me eat the fucking
God, no, please, no.
He responded to her kind of politely, was like, hey, add me on Instagram, let's debate about this. I like debating. And she fucking blocked him after. How long did it take? 5 minutes? I don't know. Let me see.
Classic. Okay, you sharing it. Okay. Hey, so Live Your Vegan Logic again. Yeah. And me on Instagram, happy to debate the science pertaining to food and human health. You might have more success responding to one of her tweets directly or making your own tweets. You might have just muted this thread. No, that was quick.
So she's just she's just Thanosing all of us. She blocked me, she blocked Danny, she blocked Simon, she blocked my friend Matt, although Matt did call her a grifter, so that's probably why.
Okay, classic. And yeah, this is the problem with places like Twitter. Yeah, they're energy draining because they can just say whatever they want. It's just people just don't really know how to navigate that, which is concerning. I think it's something that the technology has made this problem, and then we can kind of catch up to it eventually. But it will take, people like yourself pushing back and being oh no, actually, you should feel, what's the word I'm looking for? You should feel a bit nervous to put something out there unless you've got suitable backing. And that rightly so, because then maybe people wouldn't just willy-nilly say whatever garbage spews out of their mouth. Or spews off their fingers like Diana Rodgers so wonderfully does.
Also, we're sort of talking earlier about why she won't engage and such. I think she has probably the capability to go through these studies and actually understand what they mean and what they say. I just don't think she cares. I think she might just
motivated reasoning sort of thing. She's seen something and thought, oh yeah, that's the case, and just doesn't really want to look through, perhaps.
Well, I think she knows that she's I don't know this for sure. I think she I think there's a possibility she knows she's misrepresenting science. She knows the studies she's citing don't say what she's claiming they say. She just doesn't care. Because it's sort of hard for me to imagine someone going through an R&D program and putting the work in that's involved in getting that credential and making such basic mistakes like this. Although it's also possible that she just doesn't have the ability to interpret the science she's citing, which is also possible.
Who knows, really? But the whole blocking situation, the minute these critiques come to her, and it being a pattern of behavior, it just doesn't bode well for her credibility. So I don't know if she'll ever engage with someone eventually, even when there's someone who's cordial speaking to her. Well, I know that you were passive aggressive to her at one point.
Yeah, that's not what got me blocked though.
No, that's not what got you blocked. No, that happened well before you got the block. It seemed to be directly after she may have or may not have noticed that you actually knew what the hell you were saying, and she could refute it. But that's just mere speculation. I don't really know. I have no idea. It's just interesting, you know. The assumptions are made here, and if it just so happens to be the case, I don't know if that's one of those cases again. Who knows, really? Not me.
Yeah, I also think it's kind of worth noting that she's fine engaging with vegans if the topic is sort of contained to things pertaining to philosophy and ethics, which are kind of things that she can respond to in a way that what am I trying to say? Like, she can engage with topics that are sort of having to do with morals, ethics, whatever, without exposing herself as a fraud to her audience. But when it comes to more empirical stuff where you can actually really point out where she's going wrong in this, in, you know, her interpretation of the science or whatever, and it sort of becomes inarguable, and that's sort of the line that she tends to draw. Because if you go through her Twitter, she's fine interacting with vegans, right? She does it a lot,
but quote tweets them as an example when they've said something that's quite easily like refutable or, you know, a bit weaker.
Or even just more subjective, right? Because people, if you're talking about like right and wrong, people can sort of have their own ideas of what is right and wrong. So if you disagree with Diana on philosophical grounds, that's not necessarily going to point her out or identify her as a grifter. But if you are able to point out like, oh, you're citing this study whose model is just not practical. We're eating 5,000 calories and producing animal feed under a plants-only agricultural system. You're trying to use this to extrapolate the practical consequences of veganism. That's something that she really can argue against, you know? She can't just be like, oh, I disagree, I have a different view of ethics. Like, that's pretty objective. She can't really argue against that. And so that's usually where the line is drawn for her, and she ends up blocking someone.
Absolute pain. And then you have people like Joe Rogan platforming her.
Yeah, exactly. That's like I said, that's what made me so gung-ho about this. And if you recall what she told Danny, this idea that she just doesn't have time to argue with vegans, like, well, yes you do.
Yes, you do.
It a lot.
You dedicate your life to it. Like, my God. Like, literally, funnily enough, when you go on, like, the first freaking tweet, maker of plant-based meat alternatives and the key player at transition to plant-based eating, like, we're talking about plant-based eating, we're talking about whether or not we should eat meat, and, you know, veganism is in this article. It's just like a lot of her content is going to pertain to veganism and, you know, vegans. I've seen some of her stuff before, and yeah, as you say, she's been on Joe Rogan, like I just, and in that very, like, video, they were bitching about, like, Beyond Meat and the corporatization of food, and it was like, that was the thumbnail. Like, there's clearly time for this discussion. Like, time and time again, anti-meat interests have said red meat is killing us and the planet, but their evidence, if provided at all, doesn't support their claims. Oh God, I'd love to see that one. What? Death by red meat? Okay.
And in addition to, like, just criticizing vegans, she also argues with them on Twitter all the time. Like, we were looking at that thread where she was like, oh, provide a logical critique or whatever. That was a vegan she was interacting with. She does it a lot.
Or how did you end up being quote tweeted by her if she doesn't have time for vegans? Like, my God.
Like, it's so transparent, but her audience just, they're either too unintelligent or too motivated to realize it. Because I was arguing with quite a few of her fans, and it was pretty frustrating. Like, this one person was like, if you have an issue with what Diana said, then how about you actually provide a criticism? I was like, I did. Here's the thread, and here's my video. And then I think that was when they pivoted to, like, well, what are your credentials or whatever. Like, they pivoted to something.
Oh God, big yikes. And yeah, she's like hashtagging in vegan. She obviously wants to, well, maybe just an assumption, but if you're trying to hashtag, you know, vegan, you're trying to get the attention of people who will look at that thread or that hashtag. So, you know, maybe you do have time, you know, did it twice, in fact. I didn't hashtag that time, but, you know, you'll find it if vegan is written. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, that's just a lie, really, isn't it? Retweeted a fitness coach who gained 40 pounds after being vegan. Like just, oh, you have time to, you know, make digs, but you don't have time to actually engage with them. And it's really interesting as well, because it's like, well, this could be a really good example. Like she can make an example out of you, someone who's like, you know, showing your knowledge of the field, and could be like, okay, well, even their best, they come and they just suck. They're wrong. She can make a really big example out of you, but instead she claims, oh, I just don't have time for you. Like, it's just pain. I can't any longer. Like, right, do you have anything else to say about this nonsense, or do you feel successful as if you vented?
Let me scroll, because there was there was that one person who told me I can't criticize her because you worked really hard on her book. She spent years on her books. You can criticize her.
Oh, that's so sad.
Oh. So if you go to her Twitter, she retweeted this person called James Connolly.
Oh yeah, I can see. Is this the one, the dew point maker of plant-based meat alternatives and the key player?
So that person, hold on, I'll send you my quote retweet of him so you can follow that conversation if you want.
Okay.
It's really funny actually. So he basically called me like a debate bro for expecting Diana to engage with
It's just gone to your actual account.
Oh, sorry. Oh no, you're right. It was the wrong thing.
Oh my god, look, Interspecies gets it wrong sometimes, and I just love it when you do something wrong, because it's like, finally
You're just waiting for it.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for you to slip up. So like 1,000 times that I've slipped up, I'm like, oh, finally. I was laughing at this. Like, I hardly go to Twitter, but I saw this, and yeah, debate bro culture is when you point out how Diana misrepresents science and then gets upset when she blocks you instead of acknowledging or engaging with it. And they said, funny, debate bro culture is strong with these vegans. Oh wait, that explains it. Producer,
yeah. So he was
cow?
the producer of her film, her shitty documentary. And if you go to the other link I sent you, one of my mutuals, Travis, pointed out that not that long ago on his own Twitter, he called a vegan, or he accused a vegan of engaging in cultish behavior for only talking to those who share the same views. And it's like, which is it, James?
Yeah, so vegans are simultaneously cultists who refuse to engage with people who disagree with them, and they're also debate bros. Which one is it, James? Yeah, which one is it? I want to know. Yeah. Yeah, very cultish behavior. Yeah, it's almost as if we just can't win, you know, because you don't like us, and like you've got nothing to say. Ding dong. Absolute ding dong. Yeah. So
if vegans only talk to those who share their views, they're engaging in cultish behavior. If Diana does it, well, she's, you know, the opposition is just engaging in debate bro culture. So why would you even talk to them?
It's kind of, I'm sensing that it's like we're set up to fail in James's system, because there's some sort of bias or problem that they personally have, and it isn't so much anything that we're doing that's wrong, or so much that's something that we're doing that's wrong, and it's just the problem lying with James currently. That's how it's coming off to me, but maybe I'm completely wrong. And vegans, we're both cultists and debate bros. So,
also, I was talking about this with Travis, or with someone else. I think it was under Travis's tweet, one of them. But I do think there are criticisms to be made of the debate sphere, like the fact that audiences tend to just assume that whoever they agree with won, as opposed to evaluating the performance of each person critically, like things like that. People viewing debate as like a sort of bloodbath as opposed to open, productive discourse. But I think calling people debate bros has become a get out of jail free card when your views are challenged.
Yeah.
Like when you start pointing out the logical conclusions of what someone is saying, they can just call you a debate bro, and all of a sudden they don't have to engage with it, right? And I think that's what James is doing here. Diana is being criticized, and rightfully so, and rather than acknowledging the criticism or interacting with it, I just get called a debate bro, and suddenly no one has to respond to what I say anymore.
I mean, yeah, classic. That is something that, you know, people from all walks of life do. They go, you're just a insert thing here that has a bad rep, and I will have this as a replacement for an argument. Absolutely. Yeah, it's very difficult. I just... I don't know which one. People accuse me of being both a cultist and a debate bro as well. And I don't know which one I am. I'm not sure which one it is. I'm constantly torn between these two personalities. I really don't know. But yeah, well, thank you for coming on and venting about this. I think this is hilarious, especially when Sacred Cow is something that the ancestral people or the pro carnivore people especially like to bring up. I've seen it time and time again brought up, and we've had the problem with the Mike Archer study. Very important things, and Intraspecies has done some videos on these, and I will link those at a later date in the video that we make out of this. And are there any final words, Intra?
Nope, I'm just glad at the very least her tweets will stop being recommended to me by Twitter.
Not salty at all. I love that. Okay, well, thank you for coming on and talking about this, because it's important that we see how the opposition's doing. They're not doing very well in this instance. And Intraspecies, once again, Chad with the biggest balls, going for it, just soying out everywhere, and they can't take it. And I love that.
No,
so
my
thank
balls
you.
are too big. I'm swinging them around. I can't handle it.
Thank you for your soy balls. I really
You're
think.
welcome.
Yeah.
Always happy to oblige.